All right, are we live?
Yes.
Well, welcome to the Autonomous Developer Sync for June 2nd, 2025. So crazy, we're already almost halfway through the year. All right, well, I think we can just jump right in. I know it looked like the list was somewhat long on the community side of discussion items. You want to just go ahead and jump in, Jim?
Yeah, sure. So it's a long list, but it's they're quick, so we'll rattle through them quickly. So yeah, let's kick off with some hot topics. So I want to remind everyone who is running on Taurus that you should be running May the 27th build, especially if you're an operator for the health of the network. We are planning to do a runtime upgrade, which will reactivate XDM. And if you're not on that latest version, I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. We could have asked for it. But yeah, please make sure you're on May 27. If you're not sure what I'm on about, feel free to contact us in Discord. There is something that we're looking into. So something that the community have noticed, but we actually noticed it beforehand around piece retrieval on Taurus. So we recently had someone mention that they're struggling to sync their piece cache on Taurus. It's something that we are looking into. Jeremy's got, I believe, a nice tight benchmark test for it now. So we're homing in on what the problem might be. It could be quite complicated, though, is my understanding. But I wanted to highlight that we're probably going to see more people reporting that over time. So yeah, any new ways that piece retrieval issue presents itself, please do let us know in Discord, because it helps us work out what exactly the problem is. Another hot topic is the space pledged calculation. So this is something that we are planning to bring additional kind of insight into. So obviously we know on our side that the code to calculate the space pledged is all in our open source repositories, and the values to plug into the calculations in those repositories are all on chain. But we want to provide a bit more kind of a more approachable explanation than just the code. So we're planning to have a dig in on that at some point soon. I'll mention when, in a minute. In addition, so moving on, Jeremy just published the engineering update on the forum, which is a great read for anyone who's watching this call. You're probably going to find the content in there very interesting. You'll find it in the announcement section on the forum, and I will put the link in the video description below later on. We are, in addition, of course, just above the engineering update, there's the May mainnet phase 2 roadmap update. I know that everyone's keen to know when we're going to be ready to launch mainnet phase 2. The latest roadmap update, the May update, went out at the end of last week, so you can find the latest information there. We also held an AMA in the Chinese channel, and so Discord isn't the best forum for kind of really tight question and answers, but what we're going to do is Rose is going to extract all the useful information that was provided and the questions, and is going to provide a digest that I think we're probably going to put it on the forum, but we'll announce it in our usual channels when we've got that ready. Moving on, we're having farmer office hours this week. Created the event earlier. We'll have an announcement going out in a bit. We're going to have a recap on that roadmap update. We're also going to talk a bit on the Shenzhen in-person event that Rose and Dr. Chen hosted a little while ago, and we got some great feedback, and I want to provide an update on the actions that we've distilled from that conversation. There is also, it's the last chance to participate in Cosmic Cultivators. So this is a contest that we're running with the community. If you're already farming, all you need to do is go to Astral and connect your wallet through Talisman, and you'll be in with a chance of a prize. So please do make the effort there. We're also going to be pulling the highlights from that engineering update. Randy's going to give us a rundown on the big ticket items from there. Something very exciting. We will be unveiling the next trial of innovation on Wednesday. So that's in this week's Farmer Office Hours. So please do join us for that. And as usual, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. We want your questions. We don't want misinformation spreading through the community. So this is the place where you can get authoritative answers from the team. So please do join us and ask your questions. We're also going to have a farmer office hours for the following Wednesday. We are still developing the agenda there, but there will be that Cosmic Cultivators prize draw And we are also planning to have a targeted discussion on the space pledged, how it's calculated, how it works. So again, plenty of opportunities to join us, get the updates and ask your questions. That's everything from me today. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. Thank you. And you mentioned a couple of things. I'll try to address those a bit during kind of our updates too. So first, I know everybody's watching audit P1 items kind of slowly disappear, move on to the next, to the audited tag. We are at a point now, I believe all the XDMs have been audited, moved to the audited kind of list. We have the domain pseudo, so pseudo on domains is really the last remaining true P1, meaning we need that absolutely before a launch. You'll notice that we do have some domain snap sync items in P1 as well. That is to let the auditors know that these are the next things to be worked on. That is actually a feature that will potentially cut or work around for phase 2 mainnet without the full audit on that. So if you're looking at that, I know it's confusing that we use P1 as like the next highest priority, so we didn't really want to just do away with that. And so there's stuff in there that's not actually going to be required for phase 2 launch. So what does that mean? Well, the last code that needs to be done before the launch, barring anything being found in the domain's pseudo key update, is benchmarks. And I think we only have one PR outstanding on that. So we're essentially done with code for launch, which means we're moving on to mainnet prep. So there's the mainnet phase 2 prep. So there's certain things like there's quite a few actual upgrades that need to happen on mainnet consensus chain before we can launch. We want to make sure that those runtime upgrades and any client upgrades that need to happen aren't going to be breaking. So we'll be testing those in first locally, then in a DevNet. I can't really test it on Taurus because we've been making the updates the whole time. So we have to be able to go from a branch from mainnet is that. So that is beginning, that actually began last week. We're putting together the kind of final checklist for launch, which means launch is happening. So that's, I think, good news for everybody. I don't know the timing. It could be, these things end up sometimes taking longer than anticipated, but the movement is begun. So the momentum is in the right direction. I wanted to also talk about piece retrieval real quick. So we have been benchmarking that and looking at kind of Taurus as a network. We're still deep in kind of inspecting that. It's quite complicated, peer-to-peer networks and the nuances that go along with that. The farming network of Taurus is not nearly as robust since it's not incentivized, right? So I do think that part of what we're seeing is large storage growth and maybe less farmers that have ports open and things like that are allowing for them to serve pieces efficiently. But we are looking at that and like making sure that there's not a deeper issue. But I do suspect that it is kind of a byproduct of Taurus being a non-incentivized test net. Before we move on from protocol, since it kind of falls in protocol, Saeed, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you want to just give like a 30-second blurb on the kind of write-up you're working on for the solution range? Just a tease, not we'll do the full thing in 2 weeks at the farmer office hours. But
yeah, for the calculating the space pledge, the storage pledge.
Yeah, just kind of giving it 30 seconds of the TLDR of your write-up.
Yeah, sure. It is not that complicated. So I wanted to give it as an example from Bitcoin. So in Bitcoin, you have a hash rate and it is adjustable at every period, for example, 10 minutes. And you check the next, the difficulty of the network based on the previous hash rate that you're getting. That's the same that's the same logic in our network too. So imagine that we want, for example, a specific number of blocks at each period, for example, 2016 blocks. And after that period, we are looking at the network and we see how many blocks did we receive, how many blocks did we produce. It is more than 2016 or less than 2016. And then we have a fixed number for the 2016. Given some probabilities, we do have, for example, this difficulty range of the network. And based on this new number of blocks that we have produced, what's going to be the difficulty of the network? And this difficulty of the network has a one-to-one connection to the space pledge. Basically, given the probability that I mentioned, that I don't want to go through them right now, we can calculate the space pledge, like what's the number of sectors that are working right now on the network, and based on the number of sectors, we can calculate the space pledge from the farmers.
So the bottom line, and you'll go into more of how that calculation does, or somebody from the team will, when we after we get the write-up published and on farmer office hours. But bottom line is it's highly correlated to how you would measure like a hash rate in Bitcoin. It's just instead of hashes, for us, it's space pledged. So
exactly, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll let you keep going. I think you're actually next on the list here. So you want to give us an update? You've been working very diligently the last couple of weeks on improving the indexing situation with Astral that kind of was highlighted via our very, very successful XDM testing.
Yeah, so we faced a couple of challenges in indexing in Astral. So after going through deeply, what are the bottlenecks? We have spotted a couple of things. We had some inefficiencies that we didn't care before, which makes sense. When we were indexing the blocks, for example, we wanted to gather as much as information during the indexing. So this was not a problem when we're sitting at much lower blocks, but right now it is a problem because we are dealing with lots of information in each block, and our database is growing very fast, and it's an ever growing database. So writing to the database is getting more expensive. So one of these bottlenecks was fetching and gathering all of the accounts history during the indexing of a block. So we spotted this couple of inefficiencies and we extracted them to moving them basically out of the thread of indexing the blocks. So there is another thread working in parallel to the indexer, and it is a little bit with a small delay following the indexing, but it's not blocking the indexing. So it increased the efficiency of our indexer by a factor of 2 or 3x. And there were some other inefficiencies, for example, fetching the blockchain size and a space pledge at every block, which is not necessary. And we are moving to the basically seeing the whole database structure as well, because as I said, writing to the database is getting more expensive and slower. So it's affecting the speed of the indexer, and some of them because of a lot of indexing parameters that we have on the Postgres. It is different from the indexing of the blocks. I'm talking about completely about the databases. So each one of this index on the database design is giving it comes with a price, and the price is the overhead of writing and reading and the storage of the database. So we are checking the database design with a fresh new look, and to check like which part we can improve, which one we can delete, and which part we can update. So that's another thing that we are working. And let me see what else. Yeah, there was another problem with subquery that forced us to basically fork the whole repo. And the reason is that in the subquery, there is a table as a metadata. And this table is managed by the indexer itself. So when you're indexing a blockchain, you don't have any control over that table because this table is not designed for you. to change anything. So one of the parameters is basically unfinalized block, and the unfinalized block is tricky based on in our network because we are marking a block as finalized after 100 blocks deep plus 5 segments. Each segment size is 128 megabytes as the original data plus parity data is basically another 128 megabytes. So basically, you can calculate the number of blocks that we can wait, then we should wait, is basically 5 multiple 128 megabyte. And because size of the block are basically dynamic, we don't have a fixed size of the block, it happens to wait, for example, for thousands of blocks until mark a block as finalized. So, and subquery is basically checking all of these blocks, and it's like thousands of thousands. It's around like 50,000 of blocks as a single key value parameters in the metadata table. And it is problematic, for example, if a simple reorgs happen at the tip, it wanted to check everything from the beginning on the unfinalized block. And it basically makes the indexer out of sync. So we fork that repo because 100 blocks deep, when we are moving to the archival from the network perspective, is almost safe for the indexing point of view to mark a block as a finalized, but like soft finalization is not actual finalization from the protocol for just given this inefficiencies that I just mentioned. So we in our new fork, we have a new parameter as a soft finalization depth, and we are setting it into 100. So if a reorgs happen at the tip, for example, in like a 2 or 3 blocks, we are not moving from the thousands block backwards. We are just looking from the 100 blocks back and just basically forcing the subquery indexer to check that amount of blocks, not all of them. And hopefully, so the blue service indexing is almost reaching to the tip. It's like a 500,000 blocks away from the tip, and hopefully this problem is solved too. As a future, we also like have more ways, more spotting basically to improve and work on, for example, make the indexing more faster, but by having multiple thread instead of like single threading indexing right now. The problem is deadlocking between databases. We almost fixed that problem, so we should be able to index in multiple thread, and it should increase the speed of the indexing too. Yeah, that was quite a huge update.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So, you know, when we again, like, you know, when we're doing load testing, we don't find just issues on the protocol that we did find, you know, with XDM and some of the changes we needed to make around that, but also stressing all of the ancillary infrastructure. So, which is great to get that done now and start to upgrade this infrastructure ahead of kind of full mainnet launch. As part of this, also, we've been doing, you know, front-end query optimizations. And some of this is going to be architectural. Saeed talked about this. We had a lot of indexes. We were probably querying on things that weren't fully, but you know, they look like they'd be good to have as a feature of something you can filter on or something you can sort on the front end. But they come with a lot of overhead, especially when we're looking at maybe hundreds of millions of rows on a database. So we have done some optimizations there. We have future optimizations to do as well. Some of it architectural, like I said, some of it just query strategy. Mark, I don't know if you had anything maybe to kind of highlight there.
Yeah, before that, I was gonna say like thanks to you, Said, because like that unfinalized block issue right before we started this call, Jeremy, you had realized that like our mainnet Astral was out of sync, and that was the main cause. Like the unfinalized, the list of unfinalized block considered by the indexer was so large that the process that check if all these block has been finalized or not, or have been changed, just run out of RAM and crash the process, so it just spiral and just start again and again. and that stopped the indexer. And that was the main cause in the last few months why Astral sometimes was out of sync. It was that process that was just like taking so much time and resources on the server, it will just crash and restart again and again. So it's a very good. Once the blue setup indexer will be up to head, we'll switch production over, and that should stabilize a lot more Astral. As well, with the XDM contest, the list of extrinsic and event has grown extremely large, and it's also normal as the chain grow that these grow a lot more. So as you mentioned, Jeremy, we have improved the query. So at the moment, previously, Astral was querying an aggregate count on all the extrinsic, all the events to know how many page, basically how many extrinsic you have to calculate the appropriate amount of page to show. That's a very expensive query to run, since it can't be really cached, because every 6 seconds, roughly, there's a new block, so the count of extrinsic and events change. So the cache is very useless on those. So it become very expensive as a query to run just to show the amount of page. So we changed the logic on the front end to not, if you don't use filters and all, it doesn't show you the exact count of extrinsic you have. I think we're limited at 500,000. You can actually go deeper than that, but you don't get the exact count on each page and constantly querying the aggregate. And similarly, we were limited some filter for which we didn't have good index for. So making very bad UX if you're trying to search things that the database doesn't have index for. So yeah, we're improving the user experience. Sometimes it's dropping some very niche feature and ways to query the data. But overall, as we're also assuming that with phase 2, we'll have a lot more user, we just need to make the experience more stable for everyone. So yeah, that's the main goal right now.
One of the kind of byproducts too we were seeing was if we had some heavy queries happening on the front end, it was actually slowing down indexing and stuff that was happening on the back end because of the competing resources. So one of the obvious fixes for that, or improvements for that, will be separating the front end reads from the
a read replica of the database, exactly.
Yeah. So
reading doesn't impact writing.
Great. All right. Well, let's move on, Carlos.
Sure. Yeah, these previous weeks, we've been really focused on improving the experience on downloads. Basically, we had previously for large files a really poor download experience, since basically when the file was fetched from the DSN, for files like 1 megabyte or that in that range, could be like a really long time until you get the file download. So we've been working on implementing what we call or bring to cache feature, or async downloads, that basically instead of downloading the file itself, basically you ask Autodrive to download that file and keep that file on the file caching layer of Autodrive. And in this way, when you want to download a big file, you would just click the button for bring to cache, and you'll get a UI component that tracks the download progress of that async download. And when the download is completed, you will be able to download that file, or that it's already cached on the caching layer, and that download could be a much better experience. This feature is not yet deployed. We are working on some infrastructure issue, basically some infrastructure issue, but should be solved not too long from now. And also another update that we've introduced is that we used to have what we call public and private instances. that basically were the public instance was the one used for downloading files, but basically was a replica of the Autodrive service itself, but was for public usage and wasn't the user weren't getting their credits reduced by downloading through that API. And then was the private instance that they were getting their credits reduced. So we updated this structure to another one that basically separates the responsibilities of the what is the front-end API or the auto API, and that basically handles the upload of files, the deletion or the move to trash logic of Autodrive, and then we have the download service. This was made basically because we were dealing with two instances that were trying to download, because when you try to download a file from the front end, this download could be made through the private instance, and when you download, for example, through the gateway autonomys.xyz, that could be through the public. So basically, this was a problem because the hit rate of the cache was lower, because when you have two paths, obviously, you will get less cache hits, right? And yeah, that's the few changes that we made, and they are pending yet to be deployed, but they will be soon.
Great. I was going to also highlight something that the kind of product team has been working on alongside the underlying engineering of Autodrive, and that is, I know there's some questions in the community of what are some of the use cases, what are people going to do with Autodrive? Are you guys thinking about that? And so product team is always thinking about that. We're talking to partners about what they need. We're talking to potential users, and we're also thinking through these things on our own. So something that had come up multiple times. So everyone knows we kind of built out something around agents. So that was kind of our first big use case, was building out experiences for storing full agent experience on chain, being able to resurrect an agent, essentially making it unstoppable. We've gotten to a good place with that. Beyond that, we had kind of a tool registry that Saeed has been working on that allowed for MCP servers or tools and the different components that go into making an agent to also be kind of permanently stored on chain. Some of the non-agent use cases we've been looking at as well. So one that kind of came up or has come up pretty regularly is storing blobs. So storing Ethereum blobs in a permanent way. So actually we worked last week on getting a prototype of a service that can store base blobs. It's pretty close to being POC done. So we'll see what comes of that. Also working on, we have one partner who a lot of their data is kind of trade oriented data. So began working on what would a trade oriented archival, so when I say trade, I mean like DeFi type stuff. So what would a trade oriented archival service on Autonomys look like? So actively working on that, and we'll be continuing to do that both internally as a team, but starting to work with Jim and his team on developing grants around these kind of things as well. So be looking out for that. I think that was it of the set agenda. I did see one question I wanted to address kind of in the comments. So thank you for this question. So the question is, can Autodrive be logged in and used with a wallet? Because Chinese users cannot use Google or Discord accounts. So I actually, I was not super aware of this limitation. So I'm just kind of learning of this now. This is great, great feedback. We have been in discussions of how to best use wallets, kind of to add that as an integration feature. Right now, because we're fully subsidizing the usage of AutoDrive, being able to use a wallet kind of opens us up to kind of a Sybil misuse potentially. So there's less friction, right, to create a new wallet than there is to create a new Discord or a new Google. So, but this is great feedback. I will explore. Reach out in the developer chat, and we can kind of discuss this more on Discord. Although maybe according to this, I know we have a lot of Chinese users in Discord. So, but if you can't reach out there, then we have other avenues. I'll leave that to Jim to kind of say what the best way there is. But
and maybe there's
feedback.
like OAuth provider we can integrate that are more friendly to Chinese user as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right.
I was just going to jump in. Yeah, so if you can get to Telegram, feel free to ping me there, and we can continue the conversation if it's awkward to get to our Discord, which is where we have been kind of concentrating on building out our developer community. But there is a developer channel on Telegram, so maybe you'll be able to find us on there. And there is one other question, which is the big question on everyone's lips from Captain when TGE. So yeah, I'm going to put the latest roadmap update in the video description shortly after we finish up here, so you'll be able to see what the latest information is. I can see that our auto drive question came from Queen Lizzie. So if it's the same, sorry, Chin Lizzie, I've been corrected on how you pronounce that. If it's the same one, then you're in our Discord already. But yeah, come and find me on Telegram maybe. Or you can email me. I'm jim@autonomous.xyz, and we'll work out a way where we can continue the conversation. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. Well, I think unless there's anything else anybody wants to add, we can call it another DevSync down. What's the list here? Subscribe, like,
contribute,
share, contribute,
write issues, pick up issues, and create PRs, or just ask questions on Discords or GitHub.
Absolutely. So, all right, we will see you all in 2 weeks.